All right, let's talk about Slammiversary from July the 17th, 2021. And oh boy, there is a lot to discuss. So I took detailed notes on the matches to probably keep this thing under an hour. I probably am going to have to cut down some of the analysis of matches. Thankfully, there were some boring matches that really didn't matter that much, and we can skip right through those. So let's get right into it. All right, so let's start with the pre-show. Fire and Flavor dropped the tag team championships to Decay, and got good news and got bad news. The good news, Jessica Havoc got the pinfall and won a title. The bad news is that she's about to marry Bebop from Bebop and Rocksteady. So congratulations to her and Sami Callihan on their engagement, and I pray to God they do not reproduce. So the first match on the show was Ultimate X, the X Division Championship. It is Trey Miguel, Chris Bay, Rohit Raju, Josh Alexander, Petey Williams, and Ace Austin. This match was pretty good. There were some silly spots in it that I didn't like. But I think most of the match was very good. High flying, nothing match. But we need to talk about these two spots here. One, Josh Alexander was dangling from the cables, and this led to Chris Bay being elevated and put in an ankle lock. So he's got Chris Bay in an ankle lock while he's dangling upside down. Petey Williams has a sleeper on Rohit Raju. No, Petey Williams has Rohit Raju in a sharpshooter. And somebody puts Petey Williams in a sleeper. So it's like they all just tied up together. I think maybe Chris Bay had a sleeper on Rohit Raju. No, had a sleeper on Petey Williams while he had Rohit Raju in a sharpshooter. It was stupid. It was a stupid spot, man. It just looked ridiculous. Another spot that was ridiculous. Elevated Canadian Destroyer. Chris Bay was up on, I believe it was Josh Alexander's shoulders. And Petey Williams came off the cables and did a Canadian Destroyer off of Josh Alexander's shoulders. And of course, Chris Bay continued to wrestle after that. I mean, of course, he sold it, quote unquote, even though to take a power driver, from that height, it probably should be an ambulance angle. But that's in the good old days of wrestling. Today, we're talking about, orchestrated dances. Rohit Raju got over with me in this match because he tried to use a rope to climb the cables. So instead of going up the turnbuckles, he tried to climb a rope like if you saw somebody in boot camp. That got thwarted. Then he came back with a hook. He had a long hook, and he tried to unhook the title. And that plan got busted too. So in the end, Josh Alexander won the match. Match was fine. It was a very solid opener. The next match was Brian Myers and Tennille Dashwood versus Matt Cardona and Chelsea Green. It wasn't much of a surprise for Chelsea Green to be Matt Cardona's partner. I did not know that Tennille Dashwood was Matt Cardona's girlfriend. And that's his ex-girlfriend. I didn't know what the history between the two of them was, and I didn't really care, to be quite honest. It just happened to see it on Twitter after the show, and somebody was like, oh, he's going to be wrestling his girlfriend. I'm like, what? So, essentially, the story made a lot more sense once I knew Tennille Dashwood and Cardona used to date. So it was essentially his best friend and his former ex-girlfriend against him and his fiance. So it was really cool. Chelsea Green didn't really do that much. She was really kind of protecting her hand because it's still injured. But she did pull off a couple of moves, and she actually won the match with the Unprettier, which is, of course, the Christian's finish. So that was that. It wasn't a big deal as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you could have saw Chelsea Green coming a mile away. So it wasn't that big it wasn't really a surprise, really. William Morrissey, I don't even know if that W means William, but W Morrissey sounds like an author of really boring, dry fiction. Defeated Eddie Edwards in a match I did not care for, and he won with a powerbomb. I was just kind of like, okay, whatever. We got a short vignette called "Long Live the Drama King," which I believe is the nickname for Aid in English. I don't know what he's going to be wrestling as in Impact. I don't know what his real name is, but I know the Drama King is what he used to call himself, and it was like a painting, so it's going to be like some kind of artistic thing. You know what? Not bad. I don't mind Aid in English. Depends on what he's going to be doing. So Madman Fulton and Shera came out because they were very angry. They were banned from ringside for the opening match. And Scott D'Amore put them in a match with FinJuice, which they lost in mere seconds because Giants are job guys in Impact and nothing matters. Speaking of Giants being job guys and nothing matters, Moose loses to Chris Sabin via victory roll. Now, there was some good fire in this match as far as Chris Sabin's fighting back from Moose's overwhelming size and strength. But ultimately, Moose just randomly losing a match to Chris Sabin. Oh, it is what it is. I mean, it's Impact. You know, if a tree falls in Impact and nobody watched it, did it fall? You know. So then we had the next match was Violin By Design, defending the tag team championships. So it was Violin By Design, which is Joe Doring and Rhino versus Willie Mack and Rich Swann versus the Good Brothers versus Fallah Bahh and No Way Jose. Or as he was just called, No Way. Because I'm pretty sure No Way Jose is trademarked. So this leads to the Conga line. The Conga line features Johnny Swinger and Johnny Bravo. Two people who are... So that means this guy is going to be in Swingers Palace. Right? This guy is going to be populating Swingers Palace. No. Now, I thought this guy really changed his name and gimmick and everything. I don't know if he's signed and he's going to be there forever, but I thought he had changed his whole thing completely after he got released. I remember him going to get he got extensions or something like that, and they were all purple and stuff like that, and he was doing K-pop and all that kind of shit. I don't know what that was. Was it a phase? Was it like, I got fired, I don't know what to do with myself, I'm going to be a K-pop stan? And then they were like, nah, we kind of like No Way Jose. And he's just like, well, you know what? Let's just be No Way Jose and Impact. TJP wasn't on the show, so, I don't think we missed anything. I mean, we being honest, TJP is like having really, really bad toast when you could have had garlic bread, but, No Way Jose ain't much better. The Good Brothers actually win the tag team championships with the Magic Killer on Rhino. Another little note that I thought was very interesting that I might as well talk about since I have y'all's attention. Did you know that Rhino actually wrestled Jerry the King Lawler in the early part of July? I will put, if I can remember to put pictures on the screen, I will put pictures of Jerry the King Lawler wrestling Rhino. This is a recent picture. This is within the last couple of weeks. Jerry the King Lawler is 71 years old. And Rhino wrestled this guy. You know what? The game is to be played, not to be spectated upon. I guess if people are still paying to see him, he's still willing to get out there. And of course, Jerry King Lawler at 71 years old probably won the match too. And anyway, Rhino did the job for his team. He got beat with the Magic Killer. Of course, I don't understand why Violin By Design had to lose. I don't know what that was about. It seemed like they had a good thing going with Doring and Rhino. I didn't see the need to take titles off of them. Now maybe with the big finish of Slammiversary and all the Bullet Club garbage they still doing, it'll make more sense. But in the moment, I didn't like this. Violin By Design was on a roll. Let them roll. Whatever you're about to do with the Good Brothers, and they gonna be, as long as they still holding the pockets of Kenny Omega, they don't need to be the champions. You should have just let Violin By Design run. Okay, so actual excitement kicked me in the balls right here. Deonna Purrazzo versus a mystery opponent, and the mystery opponent was Thunderosa. And I was legit like, oh, because I had not even thought of Thunderosa. Of course, everybody was like, oh, it's going to be Mickie James. It's going to be Chelsea Green. It's going to be maybe Ruby Riott. It's going to be all these different people. Never thought it would be Thunderosa. And I ended up watching this entire match, and I enjoyed the hell out of this match. It was fun. Thunderosa wins with the power driver. I think it's called the Queen's Gambit when she uses it. Very solid match. Favorite match on the show, if we're being honest. This was my favorite match on the show. And this happens a lot when it comes to Deonna Purrazzo, because she can have a straight up wrestling match and doesn't need a bunch of gimmicks and, you know, to do a bunch of nonsense. Her stuff makes sense and her stuff is good. You know, she is really setting a standard when it comes to women's wrestling and Impact, well, pretty much anywhere at this point. Right now, she's doing a really good job. Okay, so post match, after she defeats Thunderosa, Deonna Purrazzo is about to talk, and then here comes Hardcore Country, and then here comes Mickie James and soaks up some reaction, and Deonna Purrazzo says to Mickie James that you know, you stepped on my moment, and Mickie James says, look, I have nothing but the utmost respect for you. You know, I'm an EVP of Empower, because everybody who gets fired from WWE manages to find themselves in a power position somewhere else. So she personally invited Deonna Purrazzo to be a part of Empower, because that's what she wanted, which is the all women's show, if you didn't know. Deonna Purrazzo, of course, was super flattered, but she's an arrogant heel, so she's like, oh, of course, everybody wants me on their show. But since you interrupted me, you know, why don't you take your trash bag and get out of here? You know, this, of course, led Mickie James to knocking her out. Of course, you know, more trash bag nonsense. If you watched the early, like I watched the pre-show, not really watched it, I was making dinner, so I had it running before the pay-per-view. It was like they were talking about the history of TNA, you know, the history of Impact. And all of these different people who, you know, well, this person jumped ship to Impact or to TNA, whatever they were calling it. I think it was TNA. This really legitimized the company. And they was talking about when Christian came over. No, when Sting came over, then when Christian came over, then when Kurt Angle came over. And then they started talking about how, you know, that when you get fired from the other places, you can feel down on yourself. Like, I saw it in the eyes of Deonna Purrazzo and Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley. I saw it in their eyes that they were beating, and I was kind of like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is this? Like, I get that. I get the purpose of Slammiversary is that it is the anniversary of when Impact was created. You know, which is a very interesting idea for a pay-per-view event. I would think it would be like their big show. You know, that would be the biggest show that they can do. And they talked about how last year they had all those releases, and then they signed up these people, and, you know, repurposing them, giving them, you know, remotivating them. And then they gave us, Scott D'Amore gave us this crazy, probably 3 or 4 minute rundown of how they're, you know, we don't tell people who they are. We sit down with talent and we help with the talent. It's a collaborative process. And I was just like, what the fuck? Am I trying to be indoctrinated? Did we have to spend 45 minutes about how Impact isn't WWE? Like, and then we have to do it again here. We have to mention the trash bags again. How many more times are we gonna do this shit? They did this shit like 3 weeks ago. They did the 2 or 3 times with the trash bag thing. To me, when you are, it's an obsession. It's like, dude, Impact has been around for 20 years. If people don't know by now that it's not WWE, then I don't know what to tell you. At some point, the biggest problem with TNA is that it had no fucking identity outside of whatever horseshit Russo was throwing out there, and then whatever Dixie was doing. They just did not have an identity. And now it seems like they're still in this situation because now they're just like the melting pot where everybody from everywhere just shows up on Impact for the cheap pop, And then those people, they act like they're super excited to see the show, and then 2 weeks later, the ratings are right back down in the toilet. And don't think I haven't been paying attention to that shit. Because I don't talk about ratings because I don't care. But I do watch, people's hypocrisy. How everybody thought, oh, Kenny Omega's going to be such a game changer. No. Once people got used to seeing him on the show, back down. Finjuice, oh, it's going to change the game. Once people get, I don't even think there was a bump for Finjuice. So, you get this stuff. I think that there's probably some initial interest. There's always going to be some initial interest. But ultimately, none of this stuff doesn't work the way people think it does. But that's a preamble for what I have to say about the main event later. But I think here is we just set up the NWA's Empower main event, which is cool because I actually saw them talking about it on Twitter. So, they already pretty much outed it when they started doing like different things on Twitter. Mickey James was reaching out to people like in public on Twitter saying, I would love for you to be on the show and, and all that kind of stuff. And I think Deonna Purrazzo wanted to be on the show because why not? So pretty much they just shot this angle and pretty much going to give Deonna Purrazzo and Mickey James. And it's a good look for Deonna Purrazzo, as long as she wins, of course. Granted, she wins because she has to wrestle at Triple Mania. When she's wrestling Fabi Apache. So she's really doing a good job of being the representative for Impact, more so than even Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega has different belts, and him being an Impact champion doesn't mean anything. At least not to him. It means less than being AEW champion. Being AAA champion means almost nothing. Because, the company just goes on like the title doesn't exist anyway. Because AAA seems to be pretty smart. Is, the concept of you don't put the title on the guy, you're gonna have to beat him later. Psycho Clown is the top guy. They're not gonna beat Psycho Clown, in some one-on-one situation unless they're gonna really crown him, even though he's pretty much already crowned. And masks and hair and all that kind of stuff are far more important in Mexico. So they really don't care that much about the title. So Kenny Omega having it and just holding on to it forever doesn't mean anything to them. So being Impact champion doesn't really mean that much to Kenny Omega. But for Deonna Purrazzo, it's a big accomplishment. It's the first real thing she did after she washed out from NXT. So she's been out here representing Impact and representing them very strongly and doing so mightily, as being Impact being the place where, women's wrestling matters more than usual, even more than AEW and WWE, even though they really don't main event shows. But she is giving her time and she's giving her space, and the other women are too, of course. So for her to be on Impact to be on NWA show, that's a big deal, and especially if she's going to be wrestling Mickey James. That's a main event spot, I think. Will it be a main event spot over what Camille is doing? She's the world champion of NWA. Maybe. I think you go with the Legend as the main event. I don't know what they're doing with Camille though. We'll have to see. But I really, I think that this match is a good idea. And if Mickey James is trying to bust the I'm washed up stereotype that, people kind of gave her the idea that she was washed up, I think that having a good match with Deonna Purrazzo will do that. People will think like, okay, well, Mickey James wasn't washed up. It was just some bad outings. Because you can have bad outings. But if she has like a shit match with Deonna Purrazzo, then maybe it's just her. But I really enjoyed this match with Deonna Purrazzo and Thunderosa. It sucks that Thunderosa was such a big surprise. And then they stomped on it by having, right after she lost, they had Mickey James come out. Which is what, I think people need to consider that when they do these big surprises. Like Thunderosa was a good surprise. Like it was legit. And then they brought out the person people really wanted anyway. Like, oh, yeah, Thunderosa was kind of a bonus. She went out there, did a job, and that was pretty much it. It's like, no, let's give her a little bit more than that. She's kind of a world warrior. much like Deonna Purrazzo, she's been one of the people who's been carrying the banner for NWA, and but it is what it is. Impact Homecoming King and Homecoming Queen, and it's going to be July 31st. I'm guessing Chelsea Green and Matt Cardona are going to win that. I don't see Chelsea Green being around much longer. She, like I said in the Ring of Honor review, I think she will probably work these set of tapings, and then that will be it. And then she'll go work for Ring of Honor. Like, I don't know if she's got an exclusive contract. The way Ring of Honor contracts work from the Ring of Honor contracts I've seen is that it's similar to WWE, where if you have an exclusive deal, you cannot work other televised wrestling promotions. So I don't know if Impacts are the same way, but I don't think too many people are signed exclusively to Impact anyway. But yeah, because maybe those things have changed, but because they showed Kelly Klein's when she sued Ring of Honor, they showed her contract and she had an exclusive deal with Ring of Honor, and it prohibited her from working in stated promotions, of which WWE was one, and I think Impact was another one. AEW didn't exist at the time, so that wasn't there. I know they got away with that in their contract once. I think it was Brian Pillman. Yeah, Brian Pillman recently, when he was under MLW contract, he was excluded from working televised wrestling promotions, and they were stated like WWE, Impact Wrestling, yada yada yada. But AEW didn't exist at the time, so he was able to work AEW because they weren't in his contract. They weren't prohibited in his contract. That was a pretty sweet deal, That's a pretty good loophole right there. But assuming Chelsea Green is going to sign some type of exclusive deal with Ring of Honor, she'd probably work these tapings and then do her Ring of Honor thing once it's over. Because by then her cash should probably be off. That's it, assuming, of course, she works. She signs some type of exclusive deal, which they probably will ask her to do. All right. They also will be going to Las Vegas for Bound for Glory. Everybody's going to Las Vegas. Everybody's making a trip to Vegas. All right, so let's talk about this here main event. Sami Callihan versus Kenny Omega. Kenny by God Omega. In one of the shittiest matches I've ever seen. Well, that's a bit extreme. It's not one of the shittiest matches I've ever seen. It's just a shitty match. This match sucked. It was slow. It was plotting. I don't like death matches. Okay? I mean, so if you're listening to this for the first time, you're like, man, this guy's pretty rough on this match. I don't like death matches. As soon as I saw the pizza slicer, I was like, man, it's some bullshit. Like, I knew the match was no disqualification. Okay, I get that. But as soon as I see this guy running this pizza slicer across Kenny Omega's head, I'm like, bro, why would Tony Khan let this shit happen? Like, what fucking moron would be like, oh yes, my multi-million-dollar talent, go and cut him like a fucking Domino's pizza in front of little to nobody, in front of 200 fucking people in a broom closet in Tennessee. Go ahead. Go right ahead. Do that. That's the stupidest shit in the world. Either Kenny Omega is an asset or he's not. I don't give a fuck what the fuck he wants to do. If you're trying to build some big match with Hangman, you shouldn't want any extra bumps, any extra scratches on Kenny Omega, anything that could potentially injure Kenny Omega or in any way disable Kenny Omega. You should not want that to take place, which is why he probably shouldn't be jumping from promotion to promotion anyway. If you want to have the open door, forbidden door or whatever, do it with your undercard guys. Doing it with your main event talent ain't gonna do shit but get your main event talent closer and closer to getting injured. But I don't like this. This was stupid to me. The pizza slicer took me immediately out of the match. And then later in the match, you had Kenny Omega stabbing Sami Callihan in the head with a fork. And then put the fork in his mouth and was pulling his jawline with the fork. It's ridiculous, man. The one thing I did have fun with was Don Callas on commentary. Don Callas was yelling at the fans because the fans were chanting, what were they chanting? Fuck him up, fuck him up, fuck him up, fuck him up. And Don Callas was on commentary berating the crowd for being vulgar and being rude and cursing on worldwide pay-per-view And D'Lo Brown was like, let them have fun, man. Let them have fun. First Amendment, man. And Don Callis was like, I'm Canadian. I don't know what that means. I love that. Like, that was great. Because they went through this whole spiel when Don Callis was introducing Kenny Omega about how they were great Canadians and they were from the wrestling capital of the world, Winnipeg, Manitoba. And they went through all this garbage not 30 minutes ago. And D'Lo Brown is up here talking about American legal law, legal constitutional rights to fucking Canadians. That's the one thing I got a kick out of this match. And I will say, I like Don Callis more than I like Kenny Omega. I do. Don Callis, he's quick-witted. He's funny. He is absolutely offensive. Like, he talks about how people are the scum of the earth. Like, what was that one time he talked about how terrible pro wrestlers are and how pro wrestlers are the worst. He's called them like cockroaches and stuff like that. It was like real offensive. And then in this thing, he started talking about how referees aren't human. They're like lower life forms. He said the only thing worse than referees are announcers, of which they were supposed to get offended. And then I think it might have been Matt Stryker who was like, I'm a broadcast commentator. That was good. Don Callis is really good on as far as talking and everything. And it's great. He's really good. Kenny Omega is okay. You know, this match, outside of the pizza slicer, I was like, okay, whatever. You know, Callahan going to Callahan. You know, him being the love child of Brian Knobbs and Jerry Sags. And hopefully, what's his name, Jerry Sags? Knobbs and Sags, the Nasty Boys. You know, he's like some kind of, like Beavis and Butthead. Like, you know how Beavis and Butthead, their dads were like in the desert. And they met them in Beavis and Butthead Do America. And they were like, and they were talking about scoring with some whores or something like that. That's kind of how I feel. Like, you know, the Nasty Boys are probably sitting on somebody's couch, you know, picking their belly button and eating their boogers and talking about, you know, scoring on the road with some whores and probably thinking like, that could be your kid. That Sami Callahan kid. Whatever. There was something interesting that did happen. Thumbtacks were brought out. Kenny Omega rubs his knee. He's wearing a knee pad, so that's why he didn't have to sell it. He's rubbing his knee in the thumbtacks to get thumbtacks in his knee. He then just does a V-trigger with the thumbtacks. And at first I was like, that's dumb. And then I thought about it and I was like, it's still dumb, but I get what he was trying to do. Because if you do get thumbtacks in your knee, it's going to be sticking in your knee. It's not going to be sticking the other way, you know? So it's going to be like really small metal parts that you're going to jam into his face. And maybe that's the point. But it's just a cool visual. So I'll give him credit for the cool visual. All right. And then the creativity, I'll give him points for that. And then it wasn't as gross as pizza slicers and forks in the head and shit. And then he did some shit where he put the thumbtacks in his mouth, which of course we just saw on Dynamite. And since this was live, it wasn't like it was taped weeks ago. It's like, you know, you literally just watched, you know, Eddie Kingston do this and decided to do it. The big finish came with, you know, the one-winged angel on the thumbtacks, even though Sami Callahan's wearing more padding than a SWAT officer. There's no reason why, you know, that guy wearing so much padding should be beaten by thumbtacks, you know, in a one-winged angel. It just doesn't make any sense. But whatever, you know, who cares? I'm just glad it's over. Between you and I'm just glad it's over, dog. All right, so once all that thing was over, we got yet another surprise, because we get more surprise. They even turned out the lights this time. And out comes Jay motherfucking White. Mr. Switchblade. I'm a big fan of Jay White. I really am. Jay White, you know, stepped over all the wreckage to get in the ring, and Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers are standing there and they're like, what's going on? Are you gonna too sweet us, bro? Are you gonna too sweet us, bruh? And he got the Never belt. He's carrying that silly Never belt. Jay White. I'm just like, man, get that fucking belt out of here. Like, that belt sucks. Get that belt out of here. In any event, it was a will they, won't they? Will Jay White too sweet Kenny Omega, or won't he? And then the show cut off as somebody was running down the ramp. Now, of course, all of our good friends on Twitter who were there in attendance told us that FinJuice ran to the ring and attempted to attack Kenny Omega and Jay White, or attempted to attack Jay White, and he escaped. So, that was pretty much what happened. Is FinJuice broke up the love fest that they were having going on here. But TNA going to TNA. LOL TNA all fucking day. All night, all day. All right? So, they cut off the feed as somebody was running to the ring. So, a lot of people were probably just missed what happened. And of course, people tried to make it sound like it was done on purpose, which maybe it was. I doubt it. It's in the DNA of this company to fuck up. All right, being a fuck up is in the very fiber of this company. It's on the corporate documents, regardless of the owners. No matter what you do, Impact must fuck up something. It's what they do. LOL TNA was not just something fans made up. It was a pattern that they noticed. And it has not stopped. It hasn't stopped. It ain't over. It ain't over. All right. So, look, let's talk about this. I love Jay White. Big fan of Jay White. No knock against him. There's going to be a certain fan base, the New Japan fan base, that are really, really, really going to love Jay White being an Impact. Me, don't give a shit. Why? There's nothing they can do with him. That's the thing about this whole Forbidden Door shit. What are you going to do with all these people? What do you do, really? You don't really control their bookings or anything like that. They're not full-time active performers on your roster. So what do you really do? What do you really gain? You gain the temporary pop, like I said before, and maybe you set up 1 or 2 big matches, and then that's pretty much it. You're not going to get Kenny Omega versus Jay White on some Impact show. That's probably not about to happen. What is more likely to happen is you're probably going to get Kenny Omega and Jay White in a tag team match at the main event of some show. And you know what? For some people, that's fine too. For me, though, I don't give a fuck about FinJuice. And I love Jay White, but I don't give a fuck about Kenny Omega. I don't give a fuck about Bullet Club. Bullet Club has been dead for years. All right? This thing is not just running on fumes anymore. It's like a crackhead. People are just itching at this point. Lips chapped, face pale, t-shirts ripped and dirty. There is no way you can still be a Bullet Club fan 10 years after the Bullet Club was cool. It's just not possible. This was not that cool. All right? It wasn't the NWO. It wasn't DX. Why did it have so many iterations? And then it's like so much of this too sweet me, bro. This shit just will not die. And I think part of what's holding back New Japan is the, inability to let these motherfuckers go. Let this shit go. Please let it go. And people talk about, certain other companies holding on to things too long. It's like, but you still have Bullet Club out here. Like, what's been going on in wrestling as long as Bullet Club? This shit's been going on since what, 2011, 2010 maybe, when Finn Balor started it. My New Japan is a little bit rusty, so I don't know when Finn Balor actually started it, but I know it was before the Young Bucks was there. It was before Kenny Omega was there. So the idea is we before AJ Styles was there too, and AJ Styles was there in what, 2012, 2014. No, he was there from 2014 to 2016, I think. Maybe a little bit longer than that, maybe 2013 too. But, it's been 7 or 8 years. It's been 10 years, at least. It's like, this is not really the cash cow that you want to keep bringing up and milking over and over and over again. I don't see how people just don't just say, fuck this stuff. You know? How it still gets people excited is beyond me. It's beyond me. Jay White is such a talented guy. To be quite honest, I think he's bogged down with this Bullet Club shit. I think I'm beginning to think the same thing with Los Ingobernables, because they're also everywhere. You know, there's a Los Ingobernables in Ring of Honor. There's also a Los Ingobernables in New Japan. Well, it's La Facción Ingobernables in Ring of Honor. They're pretty sure there's going to be some guys that are probably going to be something close to Los Ingobernables in AAA. It's like, it's cool, but come on, man. I mean, it might be time to move on. When it's been like 10 years, it might be time to change your underwear, change your t-shirts or something. You know, the game can't be that cool anymore. But that's just me. Let me know what y'all think of this show, or y'all think of Jay White being in Impact Wrestling. What do you think he's going to do? I don't think they're going to give away some kind of Omega White match. I don't see it. I don't see it happening. I don't see Impact being able to pull that one off. I would definitely be surprised if they do. I think AEW would try to pull it, if anything. You know, they'd probably be like, oh, okay, hey, we're helping you guys. Give us Jay White. Which will also, speaking of which, that probably means Jay White will be popping up on Dynamite at some point. And, you know, there's just not going to be an American audience that knows him that well. You know, hopefully he gets some opportunity to really get over and talk and do his thing, because I am a huge fan of Jay White. He reminds me of a young Triple H. That's high praise. I know dorks on the internet like, Triple H doesn't have good matches. You know, he can work like Jay White. Like, no, he reminds me a lot of Triple H, or, you know, somebody like that. He's good. I like Jay White, you know, but I just don't have any faith in the creative, and I'm tired of Bullet Club shit. I really am. You know, they keep trying to revitalize that shit. It's just it's not working. It ain't working. So I guess now they just figure, okay, we can just bring it to the United States. I'm just kind of like, nope, I reject your deposit. All right, I'll talk to you guys later, man. Like this video, hit the like button. There should be as many likes as there are views. Also subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button, please. If you're already subscribed and you're like, hey, I like Mongo, he's cool, then hey, throw Mongo some cash, $5 or $10 in the till from the tip jar, or you can sign up for it via Subscribestar. Either way, thank you guys for your time, for dedicating 40 minutes of your day to this shit that I'm talking about on this internet. And I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.
Old non-aggression. Once that lesson sets in, you'll see a session, but you got an affection for no progression. Regression.